Everyone, welcome to Performance Talks with Red Queen Consulting. I'm Chris Alexander, principal owner. At today's performance talk, we're going to talk about operating models. Let's get started. All right, that's us. As you know, we're Red Queen Consulting. And just as a recap, previously we've talked about the importance of team effectiveness drivers and team performance. And we've talked about, especially last week, the importance, or a couple of weeks ago, the importance of mental models on team performance and how the performance drivers and team and mental models play together. And so today we're going to bring that forward in the concept of an operating model. So we understand why mental models are important for task accomplishment and team performance. We understand what the drivers of team performance are. Now let's move into a broader organizational setting. We're going to understand, okay, what is an operating model and how does it work? I'm going to start today by telling you operating models are not what most people think they are and what most organizations call them. In most organizations, if I go in and ask a question, can I see your operating model, or what's your operating model? Show me your operating model. What I will see is a organizational hierarchy or a reporting chart. I'll see a chart of who reports to who, what are their departments and divisions, how are they organized from a very fundamental structural perspective. Now, let's be clear, that's an important component of organizational design. Doesn't really actually have anything to do with an operating model. It just tells you who's who in the zoo and who reports to who and who has what direct reports and how many managers per person. You can glean interesting insights. It doesn't really tell you anything about how you actually operate. Although for most organizations and most leaders in many organizations, they will look at that and say, but that's our operating model. John reports to Julie. Julie's the boss of 5 people. Julie reports to Mike. Like, great. You've told me how people report to each other. It's not how you operate. It's who reports to who signs whose performance review, who has to ask who for permission. Maybe some parts of that, especially the permission and decision-making part, play into operating models. It's not an operating model. Shouldn't be. And if you think it is, that's probably why you're struggling with the concept of operating models and why you're struggling with performance. Come talk to us. So what is an operating model fundamentally? So an operating model is a structure that explains how work gets done, specifically how value gets delivered to a customer, what the components are that are required to enable that value delivery process. There's a great example of this that's on the internet. Really like it. It's very simple. It's the pizza service, like pizza restaurant. What are the capabilities that are required for that restaurant to deliver value to customers? That's it. That's their operating model. And there's really only a couple of components, really. And this is the key thing that we want to get to. Those are called the capabilities. We'll move to that in a moment. So when we talk about operating models, the first thing I talk about when I work with an organization on operating models is principle setting, because most of them haven't thought through the principles that they want to enable in their operating model. And to be clear, this is not an abstract pie in the sky concept. This is not an let's just imagine the principles we all like. The principles should tie specifically to the strategy. They should tie to the way the organization, the vision for the organization. And it doesn't matter if we're talking as an operational part of the org or a functional part of the org or a department or a division. It's kind of the same, right? So we want to understand for the vision and the strategy that part has, maybe for a function, a lot of that's predefined. What are the principles as we go to apply the operating model? And the way that we build the principles is an iterative process, and it takes a while. We identify principles that we think are good, and then we try to answer the other questions you see on the slide. Well, what are their opposites in the trade-offs? So if you have a principle and you don't have a trade-off or an opposite, you don't actually have a principle, right? So an example would be, well, we value integrity. Well, okay, so the trade-off is lying. Like we wouldn't make that trade-off. So nobody would put integrity as a principle. It's certainly a good thing to have and important, but it's not something for an operating model design, something we need to incorporate because the trade-off is nonsensical. I don't know, maybe there are some areas in finance, banking, regulations or something somewhere that you might need to incorporate that, but I don't think so in an operating model. More importantly is how are you going to create principles and trade-offs? And this is all to guide the implementation of the building of the operating model as you identify capabilities. And so you also want to go through and explain why those, be able to answer the questions, well, why are those principles important? So what is the principle? What is its opposite or trade-off? Why does that principle matter? Why is it important? And then what are the implications in our operating model, in our way of working, for having that principle in there? So if we always wanted to, if a principle were something like we will always make decisions based on data. Everybody loves this one, right? Oh, we're data oriented. We make decisions based on data. Well, if the principle really is, we're going to make decisions based on data in our operating model. That's how it will structure, and decisions will come from data-centric analysis. That means the opposite of the trade-off would be decisions come from people with authority to make decisions. Well, now all the managers and all the leaders are going to start getting nervous because they say, well, wait, hold on. So they say, I won't make the decision. Well, no, we just said that the data will make the decision. We'll agree on the criteria that the data has to satisfy. Then we'll pool the data, we'll do an analysis, and that's the decision. Don't need to come back to you. Now we have a trade-off. Right? We're understanding when we go build our operating model and we get to how will decisions be made, who makes them, where do they get made? This principle will guide that decision-making, that structuring, that development. So we want to be clear, is that a principle we can live with and that we can want? And the why of that would be important. Well, why? Why would this principle be important? Well, it will enable faster decision-making with less bias, and we will make decisions based on value and what's best for the company, not what's best for someone's career or their individual profile. Okay. I'm not telling you that's right. I'm just telling you that's one option. That's one way we could do it. And that's where we get to the principle, the opposite, and the why. And the implication for that would be maybe we don't need as many managers, and we don't need these reporting chains and structures. If we have good data structure and governance with a solid analytical foundation, we can make decisions without managers and leaders. They don't have to be involved. That would be an implication. So there could be cost savings from personnel reduction, from lighter structuring. We might be able to operate faster. We may be able to make higher quality decisions that enable better outcomes. Maybe, this is maybe. In this example, that's just what I'm saying. Okay, so we create a set, not a ton, just a set of principles, 3 to 5, maybe. We want to keep it lightweight. Remember, it has to be small enough to be useful and usable. If we have 20 principles, we'll never look at them because it's just too much. If we only have one, well, one principle is not really useful because one principle probably won't cover all situations, all eventualities, all potentialities. It won't. So we're probably going to need a small set, 3 to 5. Again, this part of building the op model, the building the principles that will guide the op model, is an iterative process. We take our time, we build that first. Then we go on to the op model. So we'll move to that next. So now we're looking at one very light version of an operating model, build. And the operating model typically wants to align to some type of value delivery mechanism. So some type of customer, an internal customer, an external customer. It depends. If you're a function within an organization, your customers are probably other parts of the business. If you're a service within an organization, other parts of the business. If you're a small business, your customers may be your literal customers, the people out there in the world that you're trying to provide value to. And you're trying to build an operating model that enables you to deliver that value. But to understand how your operating model needs to be built, you have to understand what value you're trying to deliver. You need that clarity. Every time I run this exercise, I walk into a room of people who are trying to build an operating model, often in functions or departments or organizations that have been around for a while. And I asked them, all right, we're going to fill the top out. Everybody write down who are your customers and what do they need? And wow, we get a huge diversity of input, lots of different perspectives and ideas. And when we reflect that and we put it up on the board, people are going, whoa, what? Yeah, everybody doesn't have the same mental model, which is why you're struggling to implement and deliver value, because everyone has different ideas of what value, for who, when, and why. So we have to resolve that. So we get to clarity on what do the customers need, what is the value prop for them. Then we can move down into filling through, okay, so what capabilities do we have? And that's the next critical question. What capabilities do we have to deliver that value? There's this is done in a lot of different ways in other kind of approaches and frameworks. In value stream mapping, we do a similar thing where we look at what's the customer journey. It's more around the journey. What's the journey, and then what are the parts of the business, the value chain, that we use to satisfy that customer journey or to deliver it, or where do we have gaps and we need to build so that we can better support the customer journey. In this sense, really what we're looking at, again, this is a relatively high level. We're moving down from the customers, their needs, their value, the value prop, and trying to get an answer around what capabilities do we have that we need to deliver to enable the customer. Now we're going to talk back about that pizza joint that I referenced at the beginning. So in a pizza restaurant, right? We make pizzas. Well, what is the customer here? Who's the customer? Well, it's people who want to eat pizza, right? Could be companies, could be individuals, doesn't really matter, but people who want to eat pizza. The value prop to them is you can get a hot, delicious pizza for a relatively competitive price, right? And maybe we have some other things, or you can choose your toppings, you can choose your sides, whatever. Lots of optionality in there. That's not critical though. The core concepts are what matter at the highest level. And the core concepts are things like we can deliver a hot pizza, we can make a hot pizza, right? We can do it for a relatively good price. And so that gets down to our capabilities. Customer wants a hot, delicious pizza. Well, what are our capabilities? We only need really two capabilities. Number one, we need to be able to make a hot, delicious pizza. And number two, we need to be able to transact with the customer. So we need to be able to get paid for getting that pizza. That's important to us. So that is a part of our operating model. So our operating model for our pizza joint, we really only have two big bits. We need to be able to create a pizza. Now there's lots of parameters there. Everybody's already, I know, I hear you all. I see the comments. We're already jumping ahead to, oh, but what if I want to customize toppings? Well, what if I want a vegan pizza? Well, what if I want white pizza and not, what if I want it delivered and I don't want to pick it up? Whoa, yeah. Those are all subcomponents of the capabilities. And we would break all of that down. But the fundamental capability is we can make a pizza. And if we wanted to be really, really, maybe we could break it this way and say, we need to be able to make a pizza and get it to the customer. Right? If we're only walk-in, it's a lot easier. If we had delivery, then maybe it would be, well, they either come get it, they come pick it up, or we deliver it to them. So maybe that's a separate capability. That's an arguable point. For purposes today, I'm just gonna say, we can make a pizza and we can get money. How we get the pizza to them is a subcomponent in my model right now. For that, I'm not saying that's the right way or that we would do it that way. I'm just saying that's how I'm going to do it right now. So one capability is that. Underneath that, so we've got those two capabilities: make a pizza. Number two, get paid, transact, right? So who delivers that capability? That's what who delivers them covers. Who delivers that capability? Well, we would maybe have a floor manager, might have a pizza chef, we might have a counter attendant, right? Pizza builder, a cook, whatever the domain appropriate terminology is for that position, those positions. So that now we're starting to get into org structure, but look where it is. It's way down here, right? And then we get to how are they delivered? Well, we have an assembly line. We make everything by hand. We have a convection oven. We have a pizza oven. right? Do we make pizzas all the time and just feed them to the oven and then keep them up here? Or do we make them on demand? Do we put each in a unique oven? Is it a conveyor, sorry, not convection, conveyor oven, where we've got a piece that rolls through all the time and the cook time is predetermined and you have to make all of your ingredients and everything according to that cook time? Are we doing it Neapolitan pizza style, where we've got a pizza peel and we've got a stone oven, and it's up to the pizza chef or the pizza cook to watch and kind of turn the pizza as it's cooking and keep an eye and make a decision about when to take it out? Usually about 90 seconds or so for a 900-degree oven cooking Neapolitan style pizza in a wood-fired oven. So those are all, now we can talk about who's going to deliver them and how will they get delivered. Lots of variability, lots of flexibility. That's where we're actually building the operating model. This is the way that we will do it. This is the way it gets done where we are. And we have to make those decisions. Now, my example, we're just talking about pizza with two capabilities. The other one is, how does it, like, okay, payment system. We didn't even get to that. Okay, we need to be able to transact and get money. Well, I need to be able to take the customer's order, input that into something, or write it down, scratch it, and then I need to be able to take money from the customer. Am I taking cash, card, Apple Pay, Google Pay? Like, are we doing credit, store credit, like Klarna? Are we doing like buy now, pay later? These are all options. Are we doing all of them? Are we doing a subset? Are we doing one? Don't know. Who does that? Is it the person at the counter? Do we have a cashier that does that specifically, specially? Are we running like a cafeteria? Order the food over there, pay over there? Are we doing it together? Lots of questions, lots of things we have to decide. That's just two capabilities for our little pizza shop. But you can see the amount of decisions we're going to have to make, and the variability and the myriad of ways that we could do it. We haven't even talked about what types of pizza we'll offer, what types of tile, like whole nother discussion. So you have to get through a lot to get through the build of the op model. But once that's done, what you have is an understanding of what you need to deliver, your customers and their value prop, and what they want to get from you, what your capabilities are to deliver that to them, right? Who is responsible for each of those capabilities? Different people, same people, mix of people, could even involve at an organizational level, and will, other departments, other parts of your organization. What about when you're in a large integrated cross-organizational effort where you've got to also involve sales, marketing, brand, operations, right? We have to get legal. We have to get everyone involved to deliver some certain capabilities. Or we have to know where our operating models integrate and plug into each other, because we're going to bring in an output from another operating model. Right? They're delivering value to us. We take that, put that into our operating model, plug that in certain areas to deliver our capability. So we've got an additive system. Also happens, especially in large orgs. So this is, and having that all understood, right, back to the last point, having that all understood, written down, defined, doesn't mean we have to follow this. It means now we have a common picture. We have a shared mental model for how we get work done. It doesn't mean we can't change it, but at least we can look at the same piece of paper and agree. And when we deviate, we can have meaningful conversations about why are we deviating? Is that because we're just not doing the right thing? Or is it because the operating model needs to shift and change? Because capabilities have changed, or customer needs have changed. Now we're being deliberative. We're saying we need to do something different for a specific answer, for a specific reason. All good. Sorry, I was just reading a couple of comments came in. So that's what we've got on operating models, why they're important in both defining them, understanding them, and how they impact the way that you can perform, going back to what we know about team performance and mental models. I'm Chris Alexander from Red Queen Consulting. Thank you for joining.